Hello and welcome to another episode of the MenswearStyle Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Brooker. On this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Robert Hart, founder and creative director of Bunker Mentality. Bunker Mentality is a brand for golf addicts, people with a love of the great game and who have a different mentality. Old game, new breed. Their mission is to create new traditions and future classics in golf apparel and make the game all the more enjoyable by everyone. And that's bunker-mentality.com. That's the place to go. Before you head over there, though, why not check out menswearstyle.co.uk? That's where you'll find all the show notes for this episode. That's where you'll find all the articles, trends, latest competitions, etc. And if you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us at info@menswearstyle.co.uk. Okay? Yeah. Here is that interview with Robert Hart, founder and creative director of Bunker Mentality. Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce Robert Hart, co-founder of Bunker Mentality, to the podcast. Robert, how are we doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day here in the Shire of Nottingham, so all's good.
Great, we could do some of that down here. Robert, if you wouldn't mind, for the uninitiated, telling us a little bit about yourself and how we got Bunker Mentality off the ground.
Well, a long time ago, I started life as an engineer back in Glasgow, and I then applied for a job down in England. They were looking for ambitious young executives at the time. I was in my sort of mid-20s. I came down, I was just finishing off another degree, I did 2 degrees. So I came down here and I came to this company, which was a very, very large textile and clothing company, supplying Marks and Spencer's. This is when Marks and Spencer's were really the king of the high street. Uh-huh. And this company was the second largest supplier, so it had total turnover about 1.5 billion. That was including fabric and garments. They were looking for someone who, after a couple of years of sort of management training, could run one of their divisions. And that really had appealed to me because I'd spent quite a bit of time in engineering and gradually moved into project management, which was much more of a sort of a management role rather than pure engineering. So I'd become interested in business. I then went to Glasgow University and studied for a master's degree, which, was a really useful thing to do, given the fact that I ended up becoming a chief executive. So that brought me down south, obviously working in clothing then. So I've always loved clothing. It's always been very important to me. Coming from Glasgow, I think Glasgow has a strong affinity with branded product. So for me to come down to England was a real step in the right direction, long-term wise. So working for that company, I worked here for maybe 10 years. I ran 3 different divisions. Actually, one of them was a men's leisurewear division. And strangely enough, we supplied Marks and Spencer's with most of their men's polo shirts and certainly their men's golf and tennis shirts, which is a bit ironic now. So being chief exec for 10 years, my partner had then decided that she was a sales director for one of these divisions, and she thought, well, we should start our own business. We didn't really have a master plan at the time, but she had a strong urge to start something. And the internet was very embryonic, so we started there. But we quickly changed that into being a consultant. We were working for large companies then as consultants. We happened to be in Belfast Airport, and I picked up this magazine on the way back. And it was a magazine called Bogey. I thought, this is interesting. It looks like a golf. But the cover was strange because it had this woman was clearly on a golfing green with a putter and a ball, and she'd high heels on. I thought, this is bizarre. Huh. So I bought the magazine, flew home, read it, and it was a really intriguing magazine because it was nothing like any other golf magazine. There was no tips on how to get a bunker. There was no putting tips, nothing like that. There was no review of golf clubs or anything. It was put together by guys who were real golf addicts. And they loved the game. They created a magazine that reflected how they seen the game. Now, that really was part of the inspiration, because when I looked at this, I thought, oh, here's a niche now. This was new to me. because I'd been brought up in golf in the traditional sense, back in Glasgow, where my father, endless amounts of nights of my young life spent down chipping balls from one end of a football pitch to the other. So that kind of background in golf really, this magazine was not like that. And I thought, this is interesting. So we were at that point, as I say, working as consultants. The magazine gave me quite a lot of ideas about how we could maybe create a brand. And from there, basically, we sort of, kicked it around for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months. We were, both working in the business at that point, as I say, working as consultants. So not a lot of time, really, because you're selling yourself by the hour, effectively. But the brand idea kept percolating. And it was just really this magazine. And I went down to London and I had some time. And I went to see the guys who made the magazine. Now, at that time, there was another magazine called Adrenaline, which was, a surf, skate, snowboard type of magazine. So I went into this office and these guys were, this is bizarre because they don't look like golfers. And they were mad golfers, but they were surfers and snowboarders and really different to what I was used to. So I had a chat with them. I said, so why golf? And I said, well, it's dead easy. We love the game, but the connection is concentration. We have to concentrate if we're surfing or snowboarding or skateboarding. And when you play golf, you have to concentrate continuously for 4 hours. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So that was how they got into it. That was their thing. But they had created this magazine called Bogey, which was really, completely different and reflected their lifestyle. So that then gave me the idea for Bunker Mentality, really, that we could put something together that was different. And that's really where the idea for the brand came, really.
So is your background, when you say you did your master's degree, was that in pattern making, in fashion at all? Was that in engineering?
No, it was a master's in business administration.
Right, sorry. Okay, great.
It was an MBA. So that was really, as a young guy, was a project engineer. And I was working with large companies who were supplying our business. Our business was a defence contractor. And we actually had designed thermal imaging equipment for Chieftain and Challenger tanks, so that in battle they could see through the smoke, etc. So very, very technical, and which was typical of Glasgow engineering companies at the time. So that was what I was doing, but I was dealing with subcontractors to get them to deliver on time to the right standard, etc. So that got me interested in business, and from there. My interest grew. I started reading more books about business, etc. And I thought, I've got to get educated in this thing. So I went to Glasgow University and enrolled for an MBA. Did that. The job came up in England. I came to England, and from there, I was here 2 years and became chief executive of a £50 million company, which was the intention all the time. I ran 3 of those type of companies in a 10-year period. And they were all private label companies in the sense that we made for Marks and Spencers. Right. You're talking about companies that are making bulk production. The first business I ever ran had 4 factories in the United Kingdom, and you just cannot make those kind of volumes here now because the costs are prohibitive. Right. Unfortunately, it all went to the Far East, and the world changed. But back in those days, there was an awful lot of production in the UK. That's right. There was, the whole big shtick for Marks and Spencers was that everything was made in the UK. And from what I remember somewhere in the 90s, I think they then had to take that flag down, as it were, and start outsourcing them. And I think that's perhaps, some may say, was the beginning of the end for them, because it was something they had to do because the costs were just getting so extortionate and the competitors were coming in. But at the same time, they lost their mantle and what made Marks and Spencers great. And I think, ironically, the product they sell today is excellent quality. It's first class, and the design's really good for me. I just think a lot of it's just contemporary modern menswear now. It's not like it used to be. So if you're looking for a classic piece, it's a great place to go to get something that's going to last you much longer than anywhere else, and it probably won't cost you that kind of price. But back in those days, they were under serious competition. Next had come from nowhere. George Davis left next, and he created George Asda, and we all sort of thought, so you're going to sell clothing with bananas and beans? That's never. And of course, look at the world now. You know, so of course, but M&S was the biggest retailer on the high street back in those days, and our factories, which we had fabric production here, we had garment production of all sorts here. It just eventually slid away because of the costs, because they were having to reduce their prices quite dramatically. When you've got Asda selling, let's say men's polo shirts at £15, and we're selling M&S ones at 25. That's a hard battle.
Yeah, I mean that, and as well, I think Marks and Spencer's set up their online e-commerce store, and it just kind of crumpled from what I remember. It was just not a great platform to begin with, and they had to restructure all of it, almost kind of do the Etch-a-Sketch, shake it up, and then start again with it. And by that time, the horse was already out of the barn. Everybody else had such a good head start on them, from what I remember.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think like quite a few large retailers initially, they just didn't think that the internet was going to be around for long. They just didn't take it seriously. Yeah, I guess it's quite difficult when you're the king of the hill for so long, and the market changes. It's difficult to actually look at it and say, this is now a threat, we need to move on. Especially if you've got someone, these are the days when Sir Rick Greenbury was in charge, and I remember that when they had made a billion profit, the company was so strong, and they would seem invincible, I would imagine. So very difficult to change that big thing in the middle of a market that was drastically cutting prices and producing product that was, almost as good but a heck of a lot cheaper.
Getting back to bunker mentality. Sorry, I'm not gonna subtly switch gears. I'm just gonna yank it back in reverse. Tell me a bit about the designs and how you managed to bring modern style to the golf, and how do you approach the designs for bunker mentality?
Well, it's interesting. Well, we don't look at golf apparel at all. If we looked at golf apparel, we'd get something pretty similar. So we tend to take our influences from what I like to wear, what some of the other guys like to wear, some friends wear, and we look at menswear in general. We look at what's in the market. We look at Paul Smith, we look at Zara, anything that's fashionable, that we think looks pretty cool. We look at that as a sense of influence, rather than looking at golf apparel. And I think that's always been one of the things that makes us different. We get customers now who, and our branding's very minimal. We've got a lot of product where we don't have the logo on the chest. We have it maybe on the right shoulder, etc. So we create shirts that look, they can be worn anywhere. Now, they're fully functional. They're golf shirts for sure. But if you're in Portugal, for example, on holiday, you may choose to wear polyester because it's lighter weight, etc., etc. And in the heat, polyester is quite useful. So we design it with a different mentality, really, a different view of the customer. We see it very much as a menswear option, golf clothing designed from a menswear perspective, rather than thinking about it from a golf perspective. Everything we do is as functional, as technical as anybody else's. We just use different colours, we use different patterns, and we make it look like menswear. One of our big patterns that's been so successful is paisley. About 5 years ago, I was looking for some new inspiration, and the key pattern in golf has always been the Argyle pattern. And you remember back in the days when some of the Pringles, etc., had the big diamonds on their jumpers. Those things were always golf, and I thought, well, we can't use that because it's too traditional, it's too golf. And I love a bit of paisley pattern myself, so I thought, well, we should use paisley because it's a very popular British pattern, and you see it today. Many brands still use it; it's super popular. It's always cool and fashionable. So we use paisley, and when a guy sees paisley and he thinks, oh, on a golf shirt, that's pretty cool, that's different. And that's the kind of look that we give. So you can wear a really nice paisley polo that if you turned up at your friend's barbecue with your shorts and your flip-flops on, nobody would think it's a golf shirt.
Yeah.
But it's as functional and technical as any other golf shirt in the market. So that's really how we approach it. We don't, there's a lot of companies that that dominate in terms of how technical they are. But really, we've always taken it from a style perspective. We think that style is important. We think style matters. And to us, that's a key differentiator for us. Because the reality is that everybody's using more or less the same fabrics. You can't really make a massive differentiation in a fabric. And, I'm going back now to when I used to run a business supplying M&S with their golf shirts and their tennis shirts. So I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And although there are different types of fabrics, but essentially, they're all pretty much the same. But what we try to do is to make it look like a very nice polo shirt that you could wear to a barbecue or to go to the cinema or go to the pub or whatever you want to do in it. And that's for us and our customer, I think, quite a key advantage, because he's spending a lot of money on golf clothing. So why should you buy something that you think, well, you can only wear it playing golf, And when you look back to where we look, to the Jack Nicklauses and the Arnold Palmers and the Tony Jacklins and, all those guys, when you look back at those old images, they weren't covered in logos.
Yeah.
Your average golfer, your average golf pro now on a tour, I mean, he looks like a Formula One driver. And I understand why they do that, because it's money, they're getting paid, etc. But when you've got big sports brands who dominate your sector, such that when you've got someone on TV, they make sure that their logo is dominant in every single way, that it can't be avoided. So that really, for us, isn't golf. We think golf's a bit more stylish than that, certainly from my perspective. That's how I see it, because I think it's always been a cool game. It's always been a stylish game, and you don't need to be, covering yourself with big sports brands, logos, etc. I mean, some of the footwear has improved dramatically recently, but frankly, because some of the sports brands make it, you look as if you're playing, with football boots on. Yeah. That's really not very stylish for golf, in my humble opinion.
That's a really interesting point, actually. I hadn't thought about that, but if you're on telly or you're going down the 18th and it's a Ryder Cup, then it makes sense that you've got some kind of logo going back on your back, on your front, on your caddy, on your cap, etc. But if it's just me and my buddy going down to the driving range, there's no point reaching for a polo that's got anything that's kind of sponsor led on it, because who the hell is looking at me? So if you want to kind of make it your own identity, then it makes sense to have something that isn't so driven by logos.
Exactly. And I think from a menswear perspective, I want to wear my polo shirts that I create, wherever, it's a sunny day, I want to go out walking. I don't want people to go, why is he wearing a golf shirt? And there are some of their garments are more sporty, more obviously sporty than the Paisleys, for example. But, I think at the end of the day, we had an interesting picture, I think it was last year at the Masters or something like that, where McIlroy and I can't think who he was playing with, but it was him and his caddy and the other golfer's caddy coming off the green, and we counted 24 logos on 4 people.
Wow.
So, it's on the shoe, it's on the cap, it's everywhere, and we just think it's not good, is it? I mean,
not a great look.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a bit over the top. And so we try to have a kind of low impact effect with logos, and sometimes I say we have them on the chest, but mostly we have it on the right shoulder, where it's just a nice little silicone tab with bunks on it.
I think that same thing now when I look at 80s snooker. So my dad brought me up on all the sports that no women like, basically, and that's snooker and cricket. And when I look at like Steve Davis versus Jimmy White in the 80s, there was literally just them in their black tie wear getting down for the shots. Nowadays, it's all kind of, here's Poker 8 on my shoulder, here's Geese and Hawk, etc. Which is, I totally get where the sponsorship has now come in, because these sports need to put up the prize money for the players and the tournaments, etc. But it is such a weird kind of dichotomy where you go, well, actually, I really liked it because I wasn't distracted about now having to log on to Paddy Power with that hashtag code that I see on the sleeve, which is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it works for some. And I think it is required. I understand why pros do it, but sometimes it just gets a bit over the top. So for us, really, the design is important. Colour's very important for us. We like to use colour. We believe in colour. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it full-heartedly, and we do that. And then really, that's the kind of things that differentiate us. Plus, the fact is that, Bunker Mentality is a golf brand. The only reason Bunker Mentality exists is because of golf. Golf is our thing. We're not Under Armour, we're not Adidas. We don't have 24 other sports that we can get involved in,
right?
Because we're a small, independent, family-owned British golf brand, and that's our thing, really. We're trying to bring something different to the market, and I've got to say that customers really like what we do.
And where are the garments made now, then?
Our shirts are made in Thailand, and our accessories our shirts and trousers Thailand. Accessories are in China.
And I mean, the paisley, though, I mean, like you say, is such a very traditional British thing. I mean, I think paisley, I think 60s psychedelic, I think outdoors. But the main thing is, I guess, you think colours and you think, I need to be outdoors wearing this. This is not something that I can just sit in and, watch the Ozark in. This is something that I can actually do something with and do an activity. Who's your favourite stylish golfer out there at the minute, Robert?
Oh, that's a question. Our favourite stylish golfer. Well, I would say I don't know if he was still. He is still, but I like Ian Poulter.
I've got Ian Poulter written down.
I say that simply because in a field of grey, Ian Poulter stands out in every way. When you watch Poulter playing golf, and he's interviewed afterwards, and he's made a mess in the 14th. You can see him straining not to say what he would say to you. The rest of the guys are very, very sort of in front of the headmaster type of approach. But Poulter is very genuine, very open, and super enthusiastic. And he his own brand was pretty good. Unfortunately, that didn't go the distance. But as a guy, I would be super delighted for Ian Poulter to wear my brand. I've got to say that. He's a cool guy.
That's nice.
Yeah, and he's a British guy, which is, again, is our thing. Outside of Ian, I think somebody who would wear it very well is Dustin Johnson, because he looks good, and I get a bit frustrated because the clothing that he does wear, I just think, for a guy looking like you should be looking a bit cooler.
Well, I just love it when the Ryder Cup comes around because they always show the highlight reel of Ian Poulter's comeback. Now, I forget what that year was, but I remember we were down half of like 6 or 8 points, and he was just slamming those long putts in one after the other, and his reaction was just immense, wasn't it? He'd go nuts.
And I think that's the thing about him is, he's just so passionate. He's a guy who sort of turned pro quite late, and he's done tremendously well. And he's a character, and I think he's going to make a very, very good Ryder Cup captain whenever that comes around. I should imagine. So he's a great guy, and I think he has a nice style about him, and he's interested in style. I think that's one of the key things, that he's interested in the clothes he wears. We worked for a couple of years with a guy called Simon Dyson. Simon Dyson is a 6-time European Tour winner, and he was tremendous to work with. I mean, I never forget Simon, when he came into our office. You have to come upstairs. We've got a 3-story mill building. Simon bounced into the office, and instead of coming shaking hands, he was right into the clothing right away. He was on the shirts out, and I was like, this is terrific, because most of them aren't particularly interested. The younger ones coming through now realise golf has become a bit more fashionable, so they are a bit more interested. But Dice was right in there, pulling shirts out, saying, "Can I try this on?" Whipping his top off. He's tremendous, and he's still really very clothing orientated. So I think him and Poulter are the most clothing orientated guys that I can think of in golf, really.
Yeah, I know, that's so cool. Do you have a favourite course? Do you play golf and do you like courses yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a favourite course, but I think that anyone that's got Scotland in it is generally pretty good. I like links golf. I've got to say, we go for a business conference in Turnberry for about the last 3 years, and Um, every time you go up there, I kid you not, it's blowing a gale, you know. And so, to be fair, some of the guys go out, and I just think I'm not wasting my time because, you know, I can't play in that really. You know, I like to play when the sun shines. You know, I grew up. My dad was the original golf addict, and he insisted that, you know, you had to get your handicap down, or you weren't really playing golf.
Right.
But then my father grew up in a place where, you know, he lived 2 miles or 3 or 4 miles from his factory. He lived another 2 or 3 miles from his golf club, and that was his entire life. But then that world is not my world, and you know, when he had children did what he told them. Nowadays, that doesn't apply either. So the world has changed, and you don't always get the time that you would like to improve your game. And one of our key things is our number one rule for golf is to enjoy the game.
Yeah,
you know, and that's it. So I just love playing anywhere with good friends, having a good time, and enjoying ourselves. I mean, that's key.
And what's your handicap, Robert?
My handicap is probably about 14 at the moment.
That's pretty good.
Well, you say that. But,
oh wow! No, I wasn't expecting.
But again, I don't really mind. I'm not going to. It doesn't bother me to go and prove that. What bothers me is to beat Johnny, because this is my friend. He's been into golf for 4 years, and God, he's an addict. Right. He is, seriously. So the minute they opened the golf courses last week, the week before, I mean, I think he was there at 6 a.m.
First through the door.
I can't compete with that. I just cannot compete with that.
I know.
But so for me, it's a social thing. It's, you know, it's going to Portugal, etc. Going to Florida. It's about social golf and really having a good time and trying to get the kids into it. That's a big challenge, you know.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, what is your favourite golf film? Is it You've Been Trumped or is it Tin Cup?
I'd say Tin Cup.
Yeah.
Although, actually, it's funny because, you know...
I love Tin Cup.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at a Happy Gilmore model.
Oh, well, I completely forgot about Happy Gilmore. That's in there with a bullet. Well,
we've seen these things recently. These are these little sort of plastic things. And they're really cool, actually. We've got one with Tiger Woods, and we've got Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, and Happy Gilmore. So I think Happy Gilmore is pretty cool. It's a bit mad.
That's the one with Carl Weathers, and he has like a prosthetic hand or something that got eaten by a crocodile, right? It's that running gag. And then Happy Gilmore, he's like this cavalier golf player that likes to run up and play golf shots like he's a hockey player, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's essentially a hockey player who likes playing golf.
Is that even possible to do that, by the way, off the tee?
Yes, it is, yeah.
You can?
No, you can do it, yeah. Yeah. Oh, but then there was a film a couple of years ago, might even be less than that, about Tom Morris, who is one of Scotland's great course designers, and that was quite a good movie, you know. So there are one or two around. Yeah. But it's interesting how, you know, people play golf and they don't really let on about it, you know, if you know what I mean. It's quite interesting how many really cool people play golf, and it's just that kind of game where, you know, you can take it too seriously. So I think it's always better to just focus on enjoying the game, really.
Well, I hear about this. I mean, say about 10 years ago, me and my best friend had this ritual. We'd go down to the driving range, and it was actually quite therapeutic to do. I was rubbish, still am rubbish, but I did like going down and smacking the crap out of balls. But my mate actually got rather good, and he was saying, well, why don't we start getting some lessons? I said, well, look, you know, I'm kind of 31. I think that horse has bolted. You know, I don't need to get better. It's not my idea or ambition to go out on the golf course and beat anyone. I just like smacking the crap out of balls. But you do find people that find golf later in life, and it almost sucks them in, and they get obsessed and they get their scratch now. Kevin Peterson, for one, you know, he's an absolute nut for golf now. Sean Connery found golf when he was doing Goldfinger. I mean, you can't prize that guy off a golf course anymore.
No, and I think it's one of those things that, you know, it can be quite addictive. I mean, it can be very addictive. But let's face it, you're out for 4 hours in the countryside in fresh air with good friends. How bad can that be? You know? That's the key thing. I think the obsession is interesting because, you see, my father was obsessed about it. I mean, I remember when I was maybe 10, and we'd be on the golf course and it would start to rain. And I said, oh, we better go home now. And he said, why are we going home? I said, because it's raining. And he said, so what happens if we go home, son? I said, well, my mum will probably want to go to the shops, get some groceries, whatever. He said, exactly. He said, that's why it never rains on a golf course.
Nice.
And that was it. My mother used to say all the time, yeah, Jackie, it never rains on a golf course, does it? So that was his mentality, was that, but he was dedicated to the game. I mean, he got his handicap down to about 4, something like that. It kind of drove him a little bit mad, really, but even up until, he died about 5 years ago, and I would phone up and say, oh, I was playing golf last week, and say, son, you don't play golf, because you're not obsessed about it. You're not getting your handicap down. So it was really his thing.
Right.
It was a really important part of his life, golf. But it gave it a lot of great pleasure. And of course, that's the thing about the game is the enjoyment. If you go to the British Open, as I like to call it, the Open Championship, it's tremendous. It's fantastic. You can just, it's a great time. Anywhere golf is generally very good.
And what happens when you get to scratch then? Are you able to compete with the big boys or compete locally, or do you just get to scratch and go, that's it, I can just now?
Well, I think the thing about golf is, I mean, that's the beauty of the system, the whole handicap system. You can compete. I mean, theoretically, you could play Tiger Woods and beat him,
right,
because of the handicap system. But I think the thing about golf in that fashion is that if you think about it, what other sport can you play, let's say, if you're the right age, with your grandfather, your father, and your kid? You could get 4 generations on a golf course. You couldn't get them on a tennis court.
a bit one-sided.
A bit one-sided, yeah. You couldn't play football, you know what I mean, in any meaningful fashion, but you can golf. And I think golf has got that openness, and people. I think that's part of the reason people enjoy it. I mean, golf has become much more open recently. It's much more family-orientated, and it's a lot cooler and stylish, really. It's getting there. It's definitely improving a heck of a lot,
Well, talking about stylish, I recommend everybody go to the website bunker-mentality.com. You can have a look at all of the polos there, and amazingly, it's so accessibly priced as well, like from £50 here, I'm looking to £60, and you get the mid-layers, the gilets, as well as the snoods, accessories, etc. A real great website. You can just fall down a few rabbit holes with this and spend some time here. Listen, Robert, thanks so much for taking so much time out of your day.
No problem at all. Enjoyed it.
A real pleasure talking to you and getting to know the brand. And so, what have we got planned? What's over the hill, so shall we speak, for Bunker Mentality?
Well, we launched our own golf club about 6 weeks ago. Where because we've got a very large database and very discerning customers. We have run several golf events over the last 3 or 4 years, and we used to. Get a lot of people turning up to those, and we decided we're going to launch our own golf club. So we did that, and we've been, fantastic response to it. We're actually working on creating an app for the golf club that they can download into the phone. They'll then be able to talk to every other member. They can, so if someone, let's say, is in Glasgow, they're coming down to London for the weekend or on business, they can hook up with other members, play a game of golf. So the Club Bunker, as it's called, is really an important development for us because, again, it enhances the digital aspects of the brand. Digital, is really the future. So I think Club Bunker's doing really well. Great launch, and I'm pretty pleased with that. And that's really going to be a big thing for us over the next 12 months. And hopefully getting back onto the course.
At some point.
Getting back onto the course would be good. And that started again. So that's nice. So really it's just getting back out there. Golf travel is a big thing for us that we're looking into. We've got quite a lot of hotel companies saying, can you or some people come over and play golf? And and do some video work, etc. So we've got all of that stuff in front of us as well. But continuing to develop great product as well. That's my real key thing. I like to work on garments and to develop product that fits our customer, and continuing to do that's really important. So that's the next sort of 18 months laid out.
Great stuff. Well, congratulations once again, mate, on putting such a great product together. Once again, bunker-mentality.com. We'll leave all the links over on the show notes. And take care of yourself, Robert. Thanks so much.
Same to you. Bye now.
Thanks, mate.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Robert Hart there. Once again, the website. Check it out, bunker-mentality.com. In the meantime, make sure you're sharing. If you like what you hear, leave us a review on iTunes. That will help us get up the charts. More people will be aware. We'll pop up in different places. I forgot to mention we're on the social as well, Menswear Style. I hope you're staying safe out there. And remember, it's only fashion, people, and you're never fully dressed without a smile.